الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. We are continuing with Al-Imam al-Hattab al-Ru'ayni's Mutammimah al-Ajurrumiyyah, and this is our third lesson. Now, previously we've covered the Muqaddimah of the book, and we're moving on to the next discussion, which is Al-Kalamu wa ma yata'allafu min. The Kalam and that from which the Kalam can be made. Now keep in mind, and we've mentioned this prior as well, that i'rab can only exist after tarkib. Once you've put words together, once you've placed them in a sentence, now you can give i'rab. And now you can say that so-and-so word is marfu' and so-and-so word is majrur, etc., etc. And since this is the case, the musannif, the author, he begins by mentioning at-tarkib. What is tarkib? It's kalam, structuring words together to form a sentence. Now, certain grammarians, when they define or when they mention kalam and kalima, they mention kalam first. Because as we mentioned, the purpose of nahu is to understand i'rab. And i'rab exists in kalam. Once you structure words together, you put them together, that's when i'rab will exist. Zaydun alone will not give you the benefit of i'rab, because there's no meanings that are entering upon it that require you to give it a certain i'rab. It's not being used as a mubtada, it's not being used as a fa'il, it's not being used as etc., etc. Once you enter it into a sentence and you say Zaydun fid dar, now it's being used in a specific manner. And because you've entered into a sentence, there's a need for i'rab now. So because the purpose of the nuhat, the grammarians, is to understand i'rab, which occurs as a result of kalam, which occurs as a result of adding words together and joining them together. For this reason, certain grammarians have mentioned the definition of kalam before they mention the definition of kalima. They mention the definition of kalam first, like our author, likewise Ibn Malik rahimahullah in the Alfiyah. He mentions the definition of kalam first, and then he says, well, kalam, it's made up of kalima, so now we have to define kalima as well. Other scholars, such as Ibn al-Hajib, Ibn Hisham, etc., they say, if kalam is made up of kalima, and kalam cannot exist without kalima, we should define kalima first. And so therefore they define kalima first, and then they define kalam. Both of these methods are found within the books of Nahu. The author says, Al-kalamu huwa al-lafzu al-murakkabu al-mufidu bil-wada'. The first thing we have to understand over here, that when we say al-kalamu, what exactly are we referring to? Is this referring to the definition of kalam you find in the books of lugha, in the ma'ajim and dictionaries? Or is it referring to kalam according to the grammarians? So for you to understand this, we've previously mentioned to you in At-Tuhfat al-Saniyah that there is a difference between al-kalam al-lughawi, the linguistic meaning of kalam, and al-kalamu inda al-nuha. When the grammarian says this is a kalam, he refers to something else. And we'll build upon that right now. If someone was to give a sign, or if someone was to indicate a meaning or express a meaning which was hidden within his heart to his audience through sign language or through any form, this, according to the definition you find in the books of, in the dictionaries, would be a kalam. قال رب اجعل لي آية قال آيتك ألا تكلم الناس ثلاثة أيام إلا رمزا. Zakaria alayhi salam is told that you will not speak to people for 3 days except through signs. So this is referred to as kalam. ألا تكلم الناس ثلاثة أيام. So signs can be used to convey a meaning that's within the heart. And this is what kalam is according to the dictionary. It's al-qawl وما كان مكتفيا بالناس. Wow in the meaning of aw. Meaning any expression of yours, and likewise any expression that shows anything that's within your heart. It doesn't have to be something, it doesn't have to be words. It can even be sign language. It can be a simple movement of the hand. This is kalam. Likewise writing. This is considered a kalam. Likewise, for instance, erecting signs, a stop sign, for instance. That's kalam. Linguistically, all of these things will fall under kalam. Some scholars even say that Even if something does not, even if you cannot understand something, it's still a kalam. So all of this falls under kalam linguistically. But when the grammarians refer to kalam, they're referring to something very specific. Because remember, the grammarians, when they think about kalam, they're not thinking about any method you use to get your point across to your audience. They're thinking about i'rab. Where does i'rab occur? If I raise my hand to say salam to someone and I indicate to them that I'm waving at them, there's no i'rab over there. The grammarian will say that's not kalam. So keep in mind that kalam in the language is very general. It includes all of this. But kalam, according to grammarians, it's a very specific meaning. The author of this book is writing in Nahu. So he wants to explain to you what kalam is according to the grammarians. And whenever you find a definition of kalam in the books of Nahu, in the books of grammar, keep in mind that what they're defining is kalam according to the grammarians. This is why Ibn Malik, rahimahullah, in his Alfiyah, he says, كلامنا لفظ مفيد كاستقم. كلامنا, our kalam, i.e. the kalam of the grammarians is لفظ مفيد, such as استقم. So the author says, الكلام المراد به الكلام عند النحاة. What the grammarians considered kalam. What is that? It is هو اللفظ المركب المفيد بالوضع. It is that utterance which is a compound structure which gives benefit by way of coinage, through its coinage. So let's understand this shortly. But before that, let's cover the i'rab of the structure. الكلام مبتدأ مرفوع بالابتداء. We can say مرفوع بالابتداء, or you can just say مبتدأ مرفوع. This idea of why is مبتدأ in رفع, why is the khabar in رفع, this is a discussion that will come later بإذن الله. وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة في آخره. هو ضمير فصل على الأصح لا محل له من الإعراب. This is important. ضمير الفصل, the pronoun that comes between a مبتدأ and its خبر. لا محل له من الإعراب. اللفظ خبر المبتدأ مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة في آخره. المركب نعت اللفظ ونعت المرفوع مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة في آخره. المفيد نعت المركب ونعت المرفوع مرفوع وعلامة رفعه الضمة الظاهرة في آخره. بالوضع الباء حرف جر والوضع مجرور بالباء وعلامة جره الكسرة الظاهرة في آخره. والجار والمجرور متعلق بالمفيد. Okay. Now let's consider, or let's discuss, what is ضمير الفصل. The author over here, he said, this is ضمير الفصل. So we had the structure الكلام هو اللفظ, or نعم الكلام هو اللفظ. Do we say that الكلام is مبتدأ, اللفظ is خبر, and هو الضمير الفصل? Or do we say that الكلام is مبتدأ, هو is also a مبتدأ, اللفظ is the خبر of هو? This structure, this sentence, الجملة في محل رفع لأنه خبر الكلام. This sentence becomes the kalam for the earlier مبتدأ. So is this a case of a sentence within a sentence? Or is it the case of one sentence, but the مبتدأ and khabar is split by a ضمير الفصل? نعم. The author, or al-Kafrawi, in his commentary in al-Ajurrumiyyah, he said the correct opinion is the first. That we have a mubtada, dhameer al-fasl is there in the middle, and then al-lafz is the khabar. As opposed to considering this a sentence within a sentence, saying al-kalamu is mubtada, and then, or we can say al-kalam is mubtada'un awwal, huwa is mubtada'un thani, al-lafzu is khabar thani of huwa. And that structure, that sentence as a whole, is في محل رفع لأنه خبر للمبتدأ الأول. Or what مبتدأ, my mistake over here. لأنه خبر للمبتدأ الأول. It's the khabar of kalam. So Al-Hamidi in his Hashiyah, he says the other opinion is that أنه مبتدأ وتأكيد على القول الضعيف من جواز التأكيد الظاهري بالمضمر وإنما كان كونه فصلا أصح لإفادة تقوية النسبة. Let's leave this for now. Let's look at the إعراب of ضمير الفصل. قوله لا محل له من الإعراب أي باتفاق على القول بحرفيته. When it comes to ضمير الفصل, we have two opinions, two general opinions. Opinion number one is that dhameer al-fasl is a harf. If we say the dhameer al-fasl is a harf, that would mean that لا محل له من الإعراب, because it's a harf. Harf don't have i'rab. However, if we say the dhameer al-fasl is an ism, then there's detail. If we say it's an ism, opinion one would be that لا محل له من الإعراب, just like an اسم الفعل. اسم الفعل, it can govern, but it itself does not receive any i'rab, but it's an ism. Likewise, dhameer al-fasl, it's an ism, but it has no محل من الإعراب. Opinion two is له محل بحسب ما قبله. It follows the i'rab of the word before. And opinion number three is له محل بحسب ما بعده. All right. Now, these first two, that it's a harf and therefore لا محل لها من الإعراب. These حروف don't have i'rab. And likewise, if we were to assume it's an ism but لا محل له من الإعراب, that's very simple. It's very simple. If we take these last two opinions, let's understand exactly what this means. If we were to say زيد هو القائم, remember when you break the structure apart, زيد هو القائم, Zayd, he is the one who is standing. So it adds emphasis. But according to the last two opinions, so we can number these as a harf is, let's assume opinion one. Ism is opinion two, and then opinion two has alif, ba, and jim. Okay. In the sentence زيد هو القائم, if we were to apply either opinion number one or opinion 2a, لا محل له من الإعراب, very simple. If we were to apply opinion 2b, which is ba, له محل بحسب ما قبله, what is before هو? The word Zayd. And Zayd is in رفع. So we say that هو is في محل رفع لأن ما قبله مرفوع. Okay. What if we take opinion 1c, or often 2c, which is له محل بحسب ما بعده? Over here, the khabar of Zayd is al-qa'imu. And because the khabar of Zayd is al-qa'imu, it's in rafa. Even if we're to say that huwa will follow the i'rab of the word that comes after, it would still be in rafa. So therefore, mahalluhu raf'an bittifaqihima. According to both opinion 2b and 2c, in the sentence Zaydun huwa al-qa'imu, the mahal of huwa is rafa. Now let's look at the second structure. وَفِي نَحْوِ كَانَ زَيْدٌ هُوَ الْقَائِمَ. Once again, according to opinion 1 and according to opinion 2a, لا محل له من الإعراب. But according to opinion 2b, له محل بحسب ما قبله. Let's look what's before huwa in our structure. Before huwa, we have the ism of kana, which is Zayd. The ism of kana is in rafa. So محله رفع على أولهما. According to the opinion that the i'rab of the dhameer al-fasl, considering it's an ism, follows the word before it, we would say that over here huwa is in rafa because Zayd was in rafa. And according to the opinion that the i'rab of the dhameer al-fasl, or the mahal of the dhameer al-fasl, is in line with what is after it, له محل بحسب ما بعده, then over here huwa would be in nasab. Why? Because al-qa'im, the khabar of kana, is in nasab. So we say وَنَصْبٌ عَلَى ثَانِيهِمَا. Okay, let's look at inna Zaydan huwa al-qa'im. This is the opposite, or the flip of the second example. Inna Zaydan huwa al-qa'im. According to the opinion that i'rabuhu bihasbi ma qabla, huwa is preceded by a word in nasab because Zayd is the ism of inna. Therefore, we say huwa is fi mahalli nasbin. According to the opinion that i'rabuhu bihasbi ma ba'da, we say that it's followed by the khabar of inna, and the khabar of inna is in rafa'. Therefore, huwa is in rafa'. Understood? This is the brief explanation of dhameer al-fasl. Now let's take apart the definition the author has provided. We've taught you previously in Mutammimah in Tuhfat al-Saniyya, afwan, that when you want to define something, every definition needs to have two components. It needs to be jami', it needs to be mani'. What does this mean? Jami' means if I'm defining a certain reality, I should define it in such a manner that all the individuals of that reality are found within my definition. So, to help you understand this, I have a number of individuals over here. And then I also have a number of other individuals. Okay. Green represents those individuals that I want to define. Blue represents other individuals. So a definition needs to be jami' in the sense that all individuals which fall under the reality I'm defining, they have to be found within my definition. At the same time, the definition needs to be mani'. Mani' means that all individuals that are not found in the reality I'm defining, my definition needs to be such that it excludes those individuals. If I define a kalam in the nuha in such a manner that I end up including certain individuals which are not kalam according to nuhat, that is not a correct definition. Now, how do we do this? The answer is simple. Number one, we're going to bring a genus, a jins. This jins will encompass everything. We bring a broad word that encompasses everything below it. Then, after that genus, we're going to bring what we call a fasl. We're going to bring a factor which is specific to what we want to define. So this factor which is specific to what we define, it will do two things for us. Number one, it'll take all individuals that we want to define under our reality and place them under our definition because it's specific to our reality. And at the same time, it will take all individuals that are external to our reality and it will exclude them from our definition. So as a result of the fasl, once we mention the fasl, all individuals I want to define, they'll be mentioned under the definition, and all individuals that I want to exclude will be excluded. Remember, when the jins is mentioned, it includes everything. Once we mention the fasl, we mention this clause or this quality that excludes all external factors and includes all individuals that fall under my definition or my reality that I want to define. A definition will be complete. Now let's understand exactly how the grammarians do this. فاللفظ صوت معتمد على مخرج محقق أو مقدر. What is لفظ? لفظ is any voice that originates from a makhraj, which is either muhaqqaq or muqaddar. What does muhaqqaq or muqaddar mean? Muhaqqaq means when you pronounce, your voice will end at a certain place. Like for instance, if you were to say ad, dal, ad. Notice how your voice ends at the makhraj of dal. If you were to say, for instance, at, your voice ends at the makhraj of ta, you can't prolong it. Even if you say fa, for instance, f, you can only prolong it for so long. But the voice will find a place that has a makhraj, which is actually, it includes the meeting of certain parts of your mouth in such a manner that the voice will end at that place. All right? The breath might continue, but the voice will end at that place. Now, as for a makhraj muqaddar is the makhraj which you're using. It's the openness that results in that makhraj. To help you understand this, say when you say you're first of all you're pronouncing the makhraj of alif. It's the second letter we're looking for. Number two, that makhraj, you're not actually taking any organs or parts of your mouth and putting them together to achieve the makhraj of alif. It's the openness or the emptiness that allows you to pronounce that letter. Say oo, oo. Notice when you say oo, the waw you're pronouncing, the waw of madda, your voice isn't ending at any point, any place where your lip or your tongue, for instance, or your palate are meeting. Rather, the voice is coming from the openness of the makhraj, the emptiness. Likewise, if you say e, so the huruf al-jawf, the alif, the waw mad, and the ya mad, their makhraj is muqaddar. And the other letters in the alphabet, ab, at, ak, aq, f, aj, all these other letters, their makhraj is muhaqqaq. The voice ends at it reaches a certain place where it finishes. Naam. So lafz includes anything, any voice that leaves your mouth. Now this is our jins, right over here. Okay? And that includes everything. Just as it includes what the Nuhat want to define as kalam, it also includes matters which the Nuhat do not consider kalam. It includes everything, or includes everything, afwan. Now we're going to bring certain clauses to start removing what the Nuhat do not consider kalam. Number one, they say it's lafz. Then they say, okay, it's murakkab, it's a compound structure. The moment they say it's a compound structure, what's been removed? Anything which is a single word. When you say it's lafz, it's any utterance. That can be a, u, ba, it can be zaid, it can be zaid is standing, it can be zaid is sitting, it can be if I hit you, I will help you. All of this is included within lafz. Once we add al-murakkab, the mufrad, the single word, is removed. So now, al-lafz al-murakkab refers to a compound structure. Okay. Then we add on al-mufid. It needs to give a benefit. And when they say al-mufid, they're referring to fa'idatan yahsunu sukutu alayha. It needs to give a complete benefit. They refer to this as fa'idatan tamma. Ma yufidu fa'idatan yahsunu sukutu alayha. It is appropriate for the audience to not ask, or it is appropriate for the audience to observe silence over your statement. If I say Zaydun qa'im, Zayd is standing. Right now, there's no further question you need to ask. Zaydun qa'im is a complete sentence in and of itself. But if I say book of Zayd, notice book of Zayd is a murakkab. Why is it a murakkab? It's a murakkab because it's a compound structure. It's not a single word. It's a murakkab. But does it give a full benefit? No, you'll say, what about the book of Zayd? Is it on the desk? Is it lost? Etc. etc. You're still waiting for predication. You're still waiting for a benefit. You're still waiting for information. If I say a tall man, once again, you've been given some sort of information. The man is tall. But this tall man, what about this tall man? Is he running? Is he sleeping? Is he, etc. etc. So you're waiting for information. So when you say al-murakkab al-mufid, that structure which gives a fa'idah upon which it's appropriate for a person to observe silence, أخرج ما كان or ما ركب تركيبا إضافيا. It will exclude that which has been joined structure, that which has been joined together, a compound structure, by way of إضافة. Whether it's by way of إضافة, by way of موصول صفة, any of this. فالمركب الإضافي مثل كتاب زيد. Okay, now you're going to ask, كتاب زيد, the book of Zayd. What about the book of Zayd? You haven't been given information yet. Likewise, it excludes ما ركب تركيبا مزجيا, where you've mixed two words together to create a new word. All right, for instance, New Brunswick. You took the word new, you took the word Brunswick, you added them together. Now that's become one word. Understood? Someone might say this is murakkab. It's a compound structure. Yes, it is a compound structure. All right. But despite it being a compound structure, we haven't given you information yet. What about New Brunswick? Information is still lacking. Likewise, it even excludes ما ركب تركيبا إسناديا إذا كان علما. You have a sentence. What is the sentence? تأبط شرا. He has a sword. This is basically that there was a person that had a sword by his under his arm, and he was going to do evil. Afwan. He wanted to go harm someone. So they said his name became تأبط شرا. Like he's aiming or he's intending or he's hiding evil under his arm. Okay, that's a sentence. He wants to do evil with someone. What if you name someone تأبط شرا? Now this is an isnad. There's isnad going on. تأبط شرا is a full sentence. The moment you name someone this, what about تأبط شرا? So to give you an example in English, imagine you name someone. Let's hope no one does this. Imagine you named your son Muhammad is standing. So your son's name becomes Muhammad is standing. Okay. So you say Muhammad is standing. But what about Muhammad is standing? Remember, the entire structure now is a name. Muhammad is standing has become a name. Essentially, or originally, it was a murakkab with an isnad. It was a compound structure that had an isnad. But the moment you make it into a name, now you're required to find more information about it. Muhammad is standing, that's his name, is asleep. That's a full sentence. But just Muhammad is standing, the moment you make Muhammad is standing the name of your child, now you're in need of further information regarding your child, Muhammad is standing. Okay. Likewise, this also excludes ما ركب تركيبا إسناديا لكن لم يفد معنى يحسن السكوت عليها. All right. We have a musnad إلي and a musnad. ضربت زيدا. نعم. The musnad إلي is the ta and the ضرب, the verb, is the musnad. This is a sentence. Why? Because واللفظ المركب المفيد. And then we're going to come across بالوضع soon. However, what if I was to add a in before this? إن ضربت زيدا. What does that mean now? If you hit Zaid. Now, isnad is found. Why is isnad found? ضرب أنت. Isnad is found. But the moment I add in, if you hit Zaid, what's your audience waiting for? Now your audience is thinking, if you hit Zaid, okay, what's going to happen? If you hit Zaid, he will become angry. If you hit Zaid, he will cry. If you hit Zaid, etc., etc. So even though over here in ضربت زيدا we have تركيب إسنادي, we've attributed ضرب to Zaid, عفوا, to yourself, in a manner which gives a full benefit. But the moment you add the in, that in, which is a harf al-shart, it will no longer allow ضربت زيدا to give a meaning upon which sukut or silence is appropriate. Rather, now you have to add on the jaza. إن ضربت زيدا يغضب. If you hit Zayd, he will become angry. So this structure over here, ضربت زيدا, in relation or from the perspective of it being a shart, or just the word يغضب, just the sentence يغضب, from the perspective of being a jaza, when you add on a harf shart in the beginning, these are no longer full sentences. Yes, they are a jumlah. Jumlah means there's a snad. We've attributed A to B. Isnad is found. Therefore, ضربت زيدا is a jumlah. Is it a kalam? We say no, it's not a kalam. Because one of the conditions for kalam is al-mufid. It needs to give a meaning. يحسن السكوت عليها. Understood? So the in, which is the harf shart, when you enter it upon ضربت زيدا, it removes ضربت زيدا from acting in its power as a kalam. Because now you're waiting for the person who's speaking to you to add on more information. If you hit Zaid, okay, what about if you hit, what's going to happen if I hit Zaid? يغضب, he will become angry. The sentence is, you hit Zaid, and the sentence, he will become angry, in so as much as their role within a jumla shartiyya, they are not giving a full benefit, even though it's not is found. And over here, we'll just mention an extra benefit. The difference between jumla and kalam. The difference between jumla and kalam is, for jumla, all you need is التركيب الإسنادي. Is predication found or not? In ضربت زيدا, predication is found. You can call this a jumla. Understood? Because predication of ضرب to yourself is found. But a kalam, beyond predication, you also need ifada. Beyond predication, you also need ifada. It needs to give a benefit such that silence is appropriate. We cannot call this a kalam. Why can we not call it a kalam? Because the moment you add on in, if you hit Zayd, your audience is saying, okay, what comes next? What happens if I hit Zayd? So is silence appropriate if someone came to you and said, if you hit Zayd, and you're just standing there, for instance, you're just quiet, or the one who's saying this is just quiet, you're thinking to yourself, what happens if I hit Zayd? So silence is not appropriate over here. Therefore, the moment in, the harf shart enters upon ضربت زيدا, it removes it from being a kalam. When you see the entire structure, in ضربت زيدا يغضب, if you hit Zayd, he will become angry. Now we can say this is a kalam, because tarkib isnadi is found and ifada is also found. All right. Very similar to this previous point we've mentioned, Al-Kafiyaji, he notes in his sharh on Ibn Hisham's Qawaid al-I'rab, he says, likewise, those sentences which are becoming a part of a bigger sentence, likewise, those sentences which are becoming a part of a bigger sentence, they are not kalam. Okay. Now, if you have a sentence that's a stand-alone sentence, جاء زيد, this is kalam. There's no issue over here. However, if you have a sentence that is playing a role in a bigger sentence, such as a sentence which is becoming a sila, such as a sentence that is becoming a hal, such as a sentence which is becoming a sifa, such as a sentence which is becoming a khabar. You remember that one of the conditions we added in all of these sentences is that they need to include a pronoun or some sort of rabit that connects it to what's before it. So the sila needs to have an a'id. And that a'id has to refer back to the ism mawsul. The hal needs to have a rabit. Not just the hal, in fact. Rather, all three of these. If a sentence is becoming a sifa, if a sentence is becoming a khabar, and if a sentence is becoming a hal, they need some sort of rabit to connect it to the previous word. All right. Now, if you take the sentence which is becoming a sila, the sentence which is becoming a hal, the sentence which is becoming a sifa, the sentence which is becoming a khabar, and you were to mention the sentence alone, would that be, or you were to mention the sentence, would that be a kalam? The answer is no. Because it's in need of connecting to something before. Until you don't connect it to the structure before it, you're not giving a meaning upon which silence is appropriate. So let's look at this example. جاء الذي يدرس. The person who is studying came. All right. In يدرس we have a huwa. That huwa is referring back to الذي. And for that reason, جاء الذي يدرس as a whole is kalam. But if we were to just zoom in on yadros, knowing this is fulfilling the role of sila of the ism mawsul, yadros alone, even though it's the sila of an ism mawsul, is that a full kalam? The answer is no. Because yadros needs to refer back to something for complete faida to be achieved. The person who is studying came. Who is studying? It needs to refer back to, it needs to be attributed to, or refer back to the ism mawsul such that a complete faida can be attained. جاء زيد يمشي. Zayd came walking. Over here it's becoming hal. Alright. Yamshi, once again, it has a hidden huwa. That hidden huwa refers back to Zayd. But if you were to look at Yamshi alone, even though Yamshi is referring back to Ja'a Zayd, would we refer to this as a kalam? The answer is no. Once it's connected to Ja'a Zayd, now you can say يحسن السكوت عليها. It is a full kalam. جاء رجل يسعى. A man came running. This is sifa. Remember, Yamshi is hal because it's coming after a ma'rifah. Zayd is ma'rifah. Yas'a is sifa because it's coming after a nakira. Rajul is nakira. If you look at yas'a, when it's acting as a sifa, playing a role in a bigger sentence, in this scenario, if you were to circle yas'a alone, is this a kalam? The answer is no. Until it connects with its huwa to its mawsuf, which is the word rajul before it. Ja'a rajulun yas'a. Likewise, zaydun yaji. This is becoming the khabar. If you were to look at yaji alone, it has a hidden huwa inside it. Isnad is found. The isnad of huwa is done to yaji. But is it a kalam? The answer is no, until it connects to Zayd, because the word yaji, or the sentence yaji afwan, is fulfilling a role in a bigger sentence. Zaydun yaji. So when we circle just yaji, can we call this kalam? No. Not until it connects to the previous word. فَلَا يُفِيدُ مَعْنًا يَحْسُنُ السُّكُوتُ عَلَيْهَا. All of these sentences, they don't give the benefit upon which silence is appropriate unless they're connected to what they're referring back to. Okay. Now, up until now, we've explained what al-mufid means. What does al-wad' mean? Al-wad' in this structure over here refers to al-wad' al-arabi. Why does it refer to al-wad' al-arabi? It refers to al-wad' al-arabi because we are not speaking about different languages. We don't want, when the Nuhat explain the kalam, and when they give the definition for kalam, they're not speaking about English and French, etc., etc. They're speaking about Arabic. So this word that gives the benefit on account of being a compound structure, it needs to be in line with Arabic. So by adding al-wad' al-arabi, we've excluded what? We have excluded al-wad' al-inglizi, English. Likewise, we've excluded, for instance, al-wada' al-urdawi, or the wada' of the African language, or the French language, etc. So this excludes everything which is al-wada', which is not al-wada' al-Arabi, number one. Number two, by adding this clause, al-wada', the scholars, they explain that wada' coinage, it occurs within mufradat, single words, and there's also a type of coinage that occurs within sentences. And let me just explain this to you. What is coinage? Coinage is you have a reality and you take a word and you say that this word refers to that reality. So when you have a child, you name him Zaid. You've taken the word Zaid and you've made that a label upon this child. That's wada'. Okay? The Arabs, any word in any language that you have, wada' is done. Because that word has been made a label upon whatever reality you're speaking about. Whether that reality is that of a lion, whether that reality is that of a human being. The word human is a label upon that reality. The word lion is a label upon that reality. This is wada' fil mufrad. Wada' that occurs within single words. The question is, have the Arabs also performed wada' fil tarkib? Meaning, have they coined certain structures which need to be followed? The answer is yes. What does that mean? What that means is, if you have a fi'l, you need a fa'il. Now, you might have a number of words put together, but until those words do not fulfill the rules which have been placed by the Arabs, that will not be a sentence. Understood? So the second thing which al-wada' excludes is tarkibu mufradatin, to gather singular words in such a manner which is not in line with the shakl al-jumal. لم يكن على شكل الجمل التي وضعوها. It's not in line with the format which the Arabs have considered valid. So this also excludes تركيب مفردات لم تكن على شكل الجمل التي وضعها العرب. For instance, مبتدا and خبر. This is a certain structure the Arabs have placed. For instance, فعل and فاعل. This is a certain structure that the Arabs have placed. If the words you put together are not in line with the structure, it's not going to be a sentence. It's not going to be kalam عند العرب. This is the correct meaning of al-wada'. Now, al-Ahdal and al-Fakihi, in their commentaries, they say that لفظ مركب مفيد بالوضع. They say wada' over here means qasd, which means that the speaker, the one who's speaking, he intends to convey a meaning. This is in line with Ibn Usfur's opinion. And it's also an opinion which is adopted by Ibn Malik rahimahullah in certain books of his. He intends to convey a meaning. Okay. What we mean by this is, to help you understand this, let's assume someone's asleep. And when they're asleep, they say, idrib Zaydan. Hit Zayd. And the question is this kalam or not? Remember, we're not talking about kalam lughawi. Linguistically, is this a kalam? Yes, it is. But do the grammarians consider this a kalam? The grammarians, do they consider this a kalam in their understanding? Ibn Malik says they don't. Why? Because he never meant to say this. He was asleep. He never actually meant for someone to go and beat up Zayd. That's not what he meant. So when this person who's asleep, when he says idrib Zayd, that's not a kalam. Even though al-murakkab is found, al-mufid bil-wad' is found. So why is it not a kalam? It's not a kalam because qasd is not found. His intent to say it in a manner where his audience was hearing a meaning upon which they can observe silence, that was not found. And therefore, Ibn Malik says, if a person who's asleep says idrib Zaydan, this is not a kalam. Okay. This is what al-Ahdal and al-Fakihi understand al-wada' to refer to. When they say al-lafz al-murakkab al-mufid bil-wada', they say wada' means qasd. This person is intending, the speaker is intending to deliver to his audience such a meaning upon which silence is appropriate. And this is in line with Ibn Usfur and Ibn Malik's opinion in certain books of his. However, Abu Hayyan, in his التذيل والتكميل, which is his commentary upon the تسهيل الفوائد of Ibn Malik. He has a long discussion, and he says Ibn Malik has made a mistake over here. First, he quotes a discussion of his teacher, and then he says, look, what are the grammarians worried about? This is also quoted from Attar, from his teacher in his Hashiyah and Azhariyah. What is the mawdu' of ilm al-nahu? The nuhat, the grammarians, their purpose in understanding kalam is i'rab. And because their purpose is i'rab, in idrib zaydan, is i'rab found? Yes, it is. A structure was found, and once that structure is found in line with the way the Arabs have taught people to use that structure, i'rab is found. That's all the Arabs are considering over here. The nuhat, the grammarians, their purpose, the mawdu' of ilm al-nahu is i'rab and bina. And therefore, this should be a kalam according to the grammarians. That's why he says, لا يشترط في الإفادة قصد المتكلم إياها. For ifada to be found, for someone to give a benefit upon which silence is appropriate, it's not a condition that the speaker intends for this benefit to be given. Rather, وإنما يشترط فيها أن تكون على هيئة التركيب الموضوع في لسان العرب. The only condition is that it's in line with the structures the Arabs have put forth as sentences. وكثير من النحويين لم يعتبروا في حد الكلام سوى التركيب الإسنادي فقط ولم يشترطوا الإفادة ولا القصد. As many of the grammarians, they don't consider this to be a part of the definition of kalam. Number 2, Ibn Malik adds another condition. So these are certain conditions which Ibn Malik has added, which we're not adopting for now. And we're not going to go into detail, but detail will be given in upcoming lessons, bi'idhnillah, in the upcoming courses. Ibn Malik adds that this sentence you're saying, for it to be a kalam in the nuha, according to grammarians, it needs to give a new benefit. It says, you feed means that you should give a benefit. If you're saying something which is common sense, you're not delivering any benefit. So for this reason, if someone said, al-ardu tahtana, he says, this is not a kalam. لأنه لا يفيد فائدة جديدة. It's not giving any benefit. Everyone already knows this. Now once again, think back. What's the mawdu'? What's the topic or the subject matter of ilm al-nahu? The subject matter of ilm al-nahu is i'rab found or not? What we're looking for as grammarians is the i'rab or not? Well, when a person says al-ardu tahtana, there is i'rab. It's irrelevant whether this fa'idah, this sentence for instance, is irrelevant whether the sentence is giving a benefit in terms of, is it giving the audience certain knowledge or not? That's irrelevant. Is it i'rab found? Yes, it is. Therefore, it is a sentence. And this is why Abu Hayyan, again, he says that Ibn Malik has made a mistake over here. And he quotes from some contemporary scholar that according to Ibn Malik's opinion, if I was to tell you, for instance, Ja'a Zaydun, let's assume Zayd entered the room. So I tell you, my friend, Ja'a Zayd. This is a kalam. And then 5 minutes later, I tell you again, Ja'a Zayd. According to Ibn Malik's opinion, that structure that was initially a kalam is no longer a kalam now. And that makes no sense. Naam? So therefore, what we're looking for over here, when we want to define kalam, is the structure which we're defining as kalam, does it give the benefit? And does it fulfill i'rab? Does it result in i'rab? If it results in i'rab, this is sufficient in it being a kalam. If it does not result in i'rab, and how will it result in i'rab? It needs to be according to those compound structures which the Arabs have laid down. If that's found, it will result in i'rab, and therefore it will be a kalam. If that is not found, and it's not in line with the compound structures the Arabs have laid down, then it will not be a kalam. And with this, we cover the definition of al-kalam. Al-kalamu huwa al-lafzu al-murakkabu al-mufidu bil-wada'. We told you that al-lafz is a genus. It encompasses everything. And then afterwards, we zoom in. We also mentioned that huwa is dhameer al-fasl. Mentioned different opinions. That if you take it to be a harf, la mahalla lahu min al-i'rab. If you take it to be an ism, then according to one opinion, la mahalla lahu min al-i'rab. According to another opinion, i'rabuhu bihasbi ma qablah. So in the sentence, Zaydun huwa al-qa'im, it's in rafa'. According to a third opinion, i'rabuhu bihasbi ma ba'da. Therefore, in the sentence, Zaydun huwa al-qa'im, it is once again in rafa'. Another, in the second sentence, kana Zaydun huwa al-qa'ima. According to those who said that it's a harf, la mahalla laha min al-i'rab, or lahu min al-i'rab. According to those who said it's an ism, but they still maintain لا محل له من الإعراب. Once again, it has no state. But according to those who said إعرابه بحسب ما قبله, we said that كان زيد هو القائم. هو is in rough over here. According to those who said that إعرابه بحسب ما بعده كان زيد هو القائم. Over here we say هو is in نصب. And finally, إن زيدا هو القائم. According to those that said هو is a حرف, ضمير الفصل is a حرف, لا محل له من الإعراب. According to those who said it's an ism, and it does not have any محل من الإعراب, like an اسم الفعل, then once again, لا محل له من الإعراب. According to those who said that إعرابه بحسب ما قبله إن زيدا هو القائم, over here we say that هو is in the state of نصب. According to those who said that إعرابه بحسب ما بعده إن زيدا هو القائم, over here we say that it is in the state of رفع. Number one. Number two, al-lafzu includes everything, because the definition needs to be jami' and mani'. How do we do this? We bring a genus which includes everything, and then we bring clauses which exclude whatever we want to remove. So al-lafzu includes everything, then we add on the clause al-lafzu al-murakkab. So murakkab includes a single word. And likewise, نعم, al-murakkab excludes a single word. Then al-mufid, the word al-mufid, it excludes one more thing, by the way. Al-murakkab also excludes something less than a word, like a letter, like a, because remember, lafz is any utterance. So lafz is inclusive of a, u, ba, bu, etc., etc. So al-murakkab also excludes that. Just like it excludes a single word, it also excludes any utterance which is less than a single word, because it needs to be a compound. Then we add on the condition of al-mufid. And by al-mufid we mean al-mufidu fa'idatan yahsunu as-sukutu alayha. And that excludes a number of things. Number one, it excludes those murakkabat which do not give a fa'idah tamma, rather they give a fa'idah naqisa, such as tarkib idafi, such as tarkib masji, such as tarkib asnadi idha kana alama. And likewise, it excludes those murakkabat that give a fa'idah as a part of a bigger sentence, but in and of themselves, they do not give a fa'idah, like the jawab and shart of a jumlah shartiyah. Unlike the jumal, which are غير مستقلة بأنفسها, sentences which are becoming a part or playing a role in a bigger sentence, like that jumla الواقعة صلة, الجملة الواقعة حالا, الجملة الواقعة صفة, and الجملة الواقعة خبرا. All of this is excluded. بالوضع, we said وضع over here refers to الوضع العربي, because we're worried about the Arabic language. The موضوع of علم النحو is الكلمات العربية, and so therefore we exclude from this rules in English, we exclude from this rules in French, etc., etc., and statements in French and English. Rather, we're worried simply about al-wad' al-arabi. Now, when we look at al-wad' al-arabi, this excludes what I've mentioned above, and likewise, al-wad' also excludes if we were to put words together, but they were not in line with the method and the manner in which Arabs have structured their sentences. This would also be excluded through this, according to the correct opinion that tarkib also has wada', meaning coinage also occurs in compound structures, in the sense that the Arabs have laid down structures such as fi'l and fa'il. They have laid down structures such as mubtada and khabar in order to give a full benefit. And we mentioned that al-Ahdal and al-Faki, they understand bil-wada' to refer to al-qasd. In line with Ibn Usfur and Ibn Malik's opinion, the kalam that a person is speaking, it needs to give the benefit along with the condition that the speaker, he intends to give this benefit to his audience. But we mentioned that Abu Hayyan and others have said that this is a mistake, and the correct opinion is that this is not required. Rather, if they're in line with the sentence structure, which has been placed by the Arabs, this is sufficient. And likewise, we said that Ibn Malik also adds a second condition, and you feed a fa'idatun jadida. And for this reason, al-ardu tahtana, according to him, is not a sentence. But we've also mentioned previously that according to the mawdu' of ilm al-nahu, which is i'rab found or not? Has a sentence been structured in such a manner that there's a need for i'rab? There's no reason to refer this. There's no need to refer to this as a, or to add this condition. Rather, even if it does not give a fa'ida jadida, it is still a kalam. And with that, we finish this lesson. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.